Why has Biden's administration abandoned its plan to make 2/3 of new vehicles electric by 2032? The EV segment isn't growing as fast as expected despite discounts and incentives. Let's explore the reasons why EV sales are dropping. Price and insurance costs. Electric cars are becoming more affordable, but they're still too expensive for the majority of the society. Last year's new electric cars were selling for an average price of $50,000 to $60,000, which is lower than the $65,000 average in 2022. However, it is still far from the average cost of gas-powered cars, which is about $48,000. The actual problem is that there is a very limited variety of affordable electric cars. Only 2 are less than $30,000, with a handful more in between $30,000 and $40,000. The majority of electric cars charge significantly more. This is why more people are leaning towards hybrid vehicles, which have a lower price of around $40,000 on average. Hybrids are also the better option for people who are apprehensive about a vehicle's battery running out of power because they utilize both gas and electricity. To add to this, electric cars are usually more expensive to insure because they start off more expensive, tend to have lower reliability, and have lower resale value. Market oversupply. Dealers have been reported to have few electric cars on display or none at all. Dealers are not happy because they have too many electric cars around, which have been there for more than 100 days, which is a long time compared to usually. Why is this happening? So, last year, automakers were probably producing more electric cars than they used to, which probably meant that they expected more people to buy them. On the other hand, the number of people purchasing electric cars was not as much as they had expected. What is interesting is that it only went up by 50% in contrast to over 90% in the prior years. Though electric cars have already taken more than 8% of the share of the US car market, they still remain a small portion of the total cars sold. And now, with all these electric cars that no one is buying, dealers have a difficult time selling all the extra electric cars. Besides, the people who have not yet decided on the right choice, whether they're going to switch to electric cars or not, will probably make the situation even worse in the coming years. The situation for this is that some motor manufacturers are cutting down on the production of electric cars. Resale value. For many of us, it is the resale value that we are looking at when purchasing a car. We wish to maintain some of that initial value, but in electric vehicles, it is difficult because just a few people want to buy them. The first reason is the concern about battery. That's why electric cars have a faster depreciation rate than gas or hybrid cars. Within 5 years, electric vehicles depreciate about almost 50%, whereas gas cars lose about 38.8%, and pickups and hybrids lose even less. Even the world-known electric car like the Tesla Model 3 can depreciate in value up to 43% within 5 years. On the other hand, Nissan Leaf and Chevy Bolt lose over 50% of their value, and the Tesla Model S loses about 55%. Porsche Taycan, a luxury electric car, also loses its value even more with about $100,000 less in value after 4 years. While the Porsche 911 gas car loses less value over the same time, resale value is the key factor if it matters to you. Range and charging anxiety. Indeed, the issue of range anxiety and where to charge them is a major one that makes people reluctant of electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are getting better and can now run over 300 miles on one charge, and that is fantastic. But it is not enough to go long trips without having to recharge now and then. Moreover, batteries are not always up to the task, particularly when the car is being used heavily, for example, when towing something. Therefore, it can be said that electric trucks are unlikely to be widely adopted in the near future. The other concern is the lack of charging stations to cope with. It is not enough to increase the number of public charging stations, since not everyone can charge their cars at home. Although many people in a city like San Francisco use electric cars, the many charging stations that do not work properly make it even more difficult for people to rely on electric cars. In spite of EVs' impressive technological advancements, they're not yet sufficient. EVs have their flaws despite the progress, at least from the perspective of a regular customer. Well, most EVs have a lot of power and speed, but do they also have any other useful functions? Also, it is true that EVs' autonomy is still lagging behind that of ICE vehicles, and their costs are still much higher. However, the biggest of all is convenience. It is common that people are not well equipped with the radical lifestyle change that electric vehicles require. This is a simple truth for someone who drives an electric car that you will spend much more time at charging stations than at gas stations. Home charging seems to be a matter of concern for many people who are planning to buy these cars. In fact, a simple glance at the most recent Boston Consulting Group poll is enough to see that only a little more than 40% of those who were polled plan to purchase electric vehicles. In spite of this, it is a fact that they have much more rigorous rules that the car manufacturers of today are not able to satisfy. The $50,000 vehicle with a 350-mile range and a 20-minute charge time is the target of the customers. There is just one EV available right now that satisfies these criteria: the Hyundai Ioniq 6 SE rear-wheel drive long-range model. Therefore, it also becomes apparent that there is still a long way to go in terms of EV technology. That naturally leads to another problem, the previously mentioned buyer regret syndrome, which occurs when customers just do not want to pay a lot of money for something that will either drastically decrease in price or become old technology in just a couple of years. Repair cost and low dependability ratings. EVs are generally less complex and have fewer possible issues when compared to conventional gasoline vehicles. In theory, they're supposed to be more reliable, but recent studies show that things are not as they appear to be. The last year Consumer Report survey results show that electric cars are 80% less reliable than gasoline-powered cars. The reasons which make a buyer to disregard purchasing electric vehicles could be software problems, malfunctioning batteries and chargers, poor construction, and inadequate quality control. Let's take the Chevy Blazer EV as an example. That car was a real disappointment with problems in every single aspect of it. This EV's software problems, battery problems, and charging problems were so severe that GM had to halt sales until these problems were resolved. But the other problem is reliability. The cost of keeping it is another. Yet again, EVs should be a cheaper option in terms of operation compared to gas guzzlers. There is none of the regular maintenance like oil changes. Nevertheless, being EVs heavier, tire repairs are carried out far more frequently than in the case of conventional cars. Experts believe that both with and without the regenerative braking systems, brakes are more likely to degrade because of the same reason. Then there are the repair costs, which are greater since there are fewer skilled specialists available and because certain design solutions call for far more involved steps to be taken, particularly in cases of battery casing damage and general bodily injury. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you later.